I think I just stumbled upon basically the way that NASCAR rules have taken their biggest story probably all year. I mean, it's just the first race, but it'll probably be their biggest, most viral story of the entire year. And they took the guy at the center of that and they basically eliminated him immediately. What's up, guys? Big Clive 34. Yes, this is real life, and yes, I am making a NASCAR video. I'm intrigued by this Ryan Newman situation. It's hard to not follow through with this story and see what happens. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. So if you're a subscriber and you're confused about what's happening, I'm just super interested in the story. And I found something that I don't think anybody really reported on. I think it's really interesting. I think NASCAR kind of screwed over one of their biggest stories of the year so far, and their biggest potential success comeback stories, all with one little tiny caveat in their rule book that just doesn't really make a bunch of sense. So we're going to dig into that. So that's what's going on if you're confused as to why I'm making a NASCAR video, because you're a regular. If you're a NASCAR fan who found this video organically, then welcome. We make a lot of these type of car videos, and I have a couple projects going on out in the garage where I do stupid things and blow things up because I'm not very good at it. So if you're into that kind of thing, thanks for subscribing as well. Anyways, let's jump right into this thing. If you live under a rock, you might not have seen the massive wreck of the Daytona 500. Last lap, it's showing on screen right now. Ryan Newman was battling for the lead, and before we know it, the car's going upside down, airborne, catching on fire, getting hit by other cars. It looked really bad. We couldn't help but think back to the Dale Earnhardt situation where, you know, they even brought out the tarps to hide Newman from the crowd as they pulled him from the car, and we didn't hear an update for hours. I just remember refreshing my Twitter feed over and over again, hoping that, you know, that he would be all right. I think everybody was kind of a little bit somber and hoping for the best. It just didn't seem good. But eventually, a couple hours later, we'd get news that he was in very serious condition, but took a turn for the better. And then eventually, it only took a couple days before he was able to walk out of the hospital under his own power. Pretty cool picture with his two daughters there. So, yeah. So naturally, after a situation like that, it would be like, for me personally, if I was in his shoes, I might want to take the rest of the season to decide if I still wanted to race or not after going through something like that. It takes a lot of balls to want to hop right back in the driver's seat, but apparently that's what Newman wanted to do. He not only said that he wanted to race again this year, but he still very strongly feels like he has a shot at taking home the Cup Series championship, which seems like a very likely event, right? He's only so far missed one race, and we can tend to forget that in the Daytona 500 because he wrecked. We forget that he finished in 9th place. It's a top 10 finish. It's not bad by any account. But one little tiny NASCAR rule in the rule book is likely going to make sure that he doesn't even make their new playoff format, which is kind of weird. All forms of racing pretty much that keep like a year-long points deal kind of have the same issue. So at the end of the year, a lot of times it'll tend to be that one team with the most resources or the best driver or whatever will have kind of an advantage, because over time that's going to build, right? And if you're collecting points, then the team that tends to do better might be way out ahead. And in NASCAR particularly, that can mean that one driver gets so far out ahead in points that they don't even have to try. So NASCAR doesn't want that. No form of racing wants that, because if drivers aren't trying, nobody's watching these races, and it's not competitive, it's not fun, it's not interesting, and attendance falls off, and they end up losing money. Racing kind of is trying to copy other sports and go to a playoff format, just like basketball or baseball or football or whatever. But it's a little bit more, there's a little bit more pushback in racing. After you work hard all season, you essentially get to these playoffs, and then none of that counted for anything. There's no reason for people to race hard all season, basically. And then they get to the playoffs, and it creates drama, but then the rest of the season kind of isn't as meaningful, right? But that's not really the issue. The issue is how to get into it, and this is how Ryan Newman ties into it. In the case of Ryan Newman, particularly, I think that all of us want to see this comeback story. Like, the guy almost died at Daytona. It was a huge deal. Like, I'm emotionally invested in seeing what happens next, but he's pretty much eliminated. So the odds makers have him at 300-1, with the best odds being 6-1. I think it was Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick share the best odds. I don't know where Ryan Newman's odds were before this, but now he's sitting in 20th. He basically kind of has no shot. So to get into the playoffs for NASCAR, it's called the, what the hell is it? One and done, or one and in, or something like that. Essentially, you win a race and you get into the playoffs, which is a little bit weird. But they disclude people, and Ryan Newman is going to be in the group of people that they disclude from this format. So in order to do that, you have to be a championship eligible driver who won a race during the regular season, which Newman could very well do, but you also have to have attempted to qualify for all regular season races and met a minimum points position. You have to be in at least 30th in points or better. 30th in points or better, not an issue. I wouldn't be shocked if he was still in good enough position there when he gets back, even if he misses a couple races to meet that minimum criteria. But obviously, qualifying for all regular season races, he has now missed a race, which means that he can't get in that way. He could still get in, though. Basically, what happens is, and I don't understand this either. So there's 16 racers, right, that get into the championship, or into the playoffs rather. But what happens then if more than 16 people win races? Like, that has gone over my head. I can't find anything about that. Maybe somebody who's more educated on the NASCAR rulebook can fill me in there. So basically, his only shot is hoping that either several drivers run the table. There's 28 races, which means that at least 5 drivers will have to win 2 races, which is likely, or 5 drivers will have to win 2 races and 1 will have to win 3 for him to qualify. And then if he's after that, they go to the point standings, and whoever's next in points will have the opportunity to step up and be in the playoffs. So essentially, he has to hope that some things fall in place and that he races really well throughout the season. Essentially, like, this one and done thing, super weird. The fact that you're disqualified after 1 race, I think, is kind of not great. It's going to encourage drivers to get back in the driver's seat when they're not feeling great, when they're concussed, when they're injured. Not a great look to be behind the wheel of a car going 200 miles an hour while you have even like a brain injury or something like that. So they do try and get you cleared by the doctor, but you guys know how that stuff works. So essentially, I think I just stumbled upon basically the way that NASCAR rules have taken their biggest story probably all year. I mean, it's just the first race, but it'll probably be their biggest, most viral story of the entire year. And they took the guy at the center of that and they basically eliminated him immediately. Like, I think that these rules need overhauled big time. Not a big NASCAR fan. Probably not going to watch that much more NASCAR. I might watch a couple races. But I thought that was kind of crazy, and hopefully I'm pulling for Ryan Newman. Like, I want this guy to get in. Like, just because all this happened, I'm attached to the story now. I want him to get in, but it's looking incredibly unlikely that he even has a shot at the playoffs. And if he does, well, we're going to have some interesting racing late in the season here. And that'd be really something if he came back and won this year after being knocked out with something like that. But there you go, guys. That's my NASCAR video. Probably my one this year, if not my one for my entire life NASCAR video. But thank you guys for watching again. If you enjoyed this rundown, please leave a like and subscribe. I'm not going to have any more NASCAR content, but I do a lot of dumb things, and that's fun to watch, right? So, all right, guys. Thanks for joining in. I will catch you all next time.